Hi, it's Paul the Ripples guy. I'm making this quick video for some of my friends who are struggling right now with some big change, big challenge in their life. And they know about this little sticker. And if you're watching this and you don't know, back at the beginning of the pandemic, a few of us got together and created this little sticker that has a blue heart in the middle that says, "We got this." And I was convinced then, and I'm convinced now, that regardless of what challenge or big change is in front of us, that we got this if we come together with four things: curious minds, open hearts, and calm spirits while we nurture our health. And when I was originally thinking about this sticker and when we made it up, we were primarily thinking about our physical health, washing our hands, putting on a mask, that sort of thing. And it gradually evolved to be thinking of physical health, emotional well-being, spiritual health. And lately, I've been including community health so that we're thinking not just of our own health, but the health of the community as a whole. And when we started unpacking these, I started thinking about the way I used to teach the three phases of dealing with big challenge and change: surviving and reviving and thriving. And I've really let go of the idea that those are three distinct phases that we start and move through and are then done with, because the truth is, when we're going through big challenge and change, we can kind of bounce all over the place from moment to moment, from day to day. And I think it's also true that we can be doing well in one area of our life, even while we're really struggling in another area. So, what we came up with was a simple way to think about each of these four areas: curious minds, open hearts, and calm spirits while you're nurturing your health. Uh, is each having some practical steps that we could take if we were really struggling and we were just trying to survive, or if we were trying to revive, get back to normal, or to create a new normal. And then hopefully with all areas of our life, we can eventually get back to thriving, to kicking butt. And so if we start with curious minds and we think about our thoughts and feelings, the surviving mode is very simple. It's simply to notice what we're thinking and feeling, not trying to judge them, not trying to fix them or change them, but just to notice. And there's actually a lot of research that says there's this term, emotional, or excuse me, affective labeling, where the minute we are able to identify what we're feeling, and this is also true in the cognitive realm, what we're thinking, we're no longer just a person with those feelings, but we're a person who's aware of them. And it creates a little space. And it can help us remember that we are a human having a feeling or having a thought. We are not that feeling. We are not that thought. When we're ready to revive, we can expand the little space between what has happened and the response that we want to have. And we have a little bit more choice in our response. Initially, when something big happens, when something hard happens, the truth is we don't have a lot of control over our initial reactions. Our thoughts zoom in, our feelings zoom in, and the best thing we can do in the short run is just to notice what we're feeling. As we start to get some space between stimulus and response that gives us a little more choice, then we can choose consciously. This is a big feel. What do I want to do about it? And the thriving in our curious mind happens when we can pivot to a growth mindset. And I'll pause here and say, if you're not familiar with a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, please do some Googling and learn about those awesome concepts. But the idea is that no matter what big stuff, hard stuff happens, if we've got a growth mindset that says, okay, I don't know how I'm going to get through this yet, it helps us remember that just because we don't have all the answers right now doesn't mean we won't eventually. And just because we can't imagine how we're going to get through this in a moment doesn't mean there, we can't be confident that we will eventually figure it out on our own, with help, whatever. Once we activate a curious mind, then we can turn to open hearts. And when we conceive this the sticker, I was originally talking about extending compassion and kindness towards other people, cutting people slack that we encounter during stressful times. But the surviving mode here is really having an open heart towards ourselves, allowing ourselves to receive compassion and generosity and kindness and extend that inward. And for a lot of us, that's not as easy as extending it outwards. Once we get a good handle on that, the reviving energy is then to extend compassion and kindness and generosity out towards our loved ones, the people that it's easy for us to love on most days. The thriving energy with an open heart is to be able to extend generosity, kindness, and compassion towards all folks, even the ones that we disagree with, even the ones that we might use the word hate about. And this is a hard step. And when we're first going through big stuff and there's somebody that we perceive as an enemy, it's probably not useful or realistic to try to start by saying, they're a good person on the inside. I'm going to love them anyway, because we've got too many thoughts and feels. So that's where you go back to the surviving strategy and start with yourself and then extend that outward towards people that's relatively easy for you to have positive feelings for. With a curious mind and an open heart, we can turn to tending to a calm spirit. And for those of us who have taken courses in mindfulness and meditation, one of the first steps that we try to do is just to be able to find our center. And for those people who hang out with me a lot know that I'm a big believer in the very simple mantra here now, where we take a deep breath in and we think the word here, and we exhale and think the word now. But whatever it might be that you can do to find your center, it might be here now, it might be a mantra, it might be a hug from a friend, a prayer that you read, a walk in nature, putting on the right piece of music, just looking around the room and identifying something that's calming and that helps you get grounded, helps you find your center. The truth is, even for those of us who meditate daily, even for those of us who are pretty good at finding our center, we aren't able to stay in our center at all times. We inevitably get knocked off the center, more so when we're dealing with big challenge and change. And so the reviving energy is to be able to notice when we've been knocked off center and to return to our center without judging ourselves for having. And it's very common in meditation and mindfulness activities. We pick something to focus on, we focus on our breath, we focus on a point, and then our mind wanders and we go, oh, I messed up. And the reality is, the trick is to say, oh, look at that. My mind has wandered, and to come back to what the focus is and skip over the part that's judging. I still, my monkey mind goes all over the place when I meditate, and I sometimes still judge myself occasionally. And what really is great is I'm pretty darn good at not judging my judging. Is I'll notice my judgment and I'll almost always laugh. I'll go, "Oh, there's that judgment again. Let's try skipping over that and going back to my breath or whatever the mantra is." When we're ready to thrive, some people might think that having a calm spirit means moving through life all all day, all week, all month for our whole lives in the calm center. And again, I just don't think that's realistic for us humans. I think being able to linger in our center for a few moments, maybe a few minutes, is probably the most we can ask for, even when we're thriving in our calm spirits. But when we find our center, return to our center, and linger in it when it comes up, it becomes a place we can come home to a lot. And finally, we talk about nurturing health. And again, I'm thinking now of a very expansive view, your physical health, your emotional well-being, your spiritual health. And in the case of when groups are dealing with conflict or big stuff is going along and there's a lot of people involved, to be able to think of community health as part of that. And for surviving and reviving and thriving here for this piece, I leaned on my training as a Boy Scout and in EMT training that I took in college. that the first thing that happens when you hurt yourself, or the first thing that happens when you come upon a group of people that have been injured, is you do an assessment and triage. You look around and what are all the things wrong? What's the biggest problem? What's the most life-threatening problem? What's the thing that's getting in the way of us being able to be healthy? Let's focus on that one first, and then tend to the others in a secondary nature. And doing an assessment triage really is important before we do anything else. The reviving energy is then to apply the first aid. Is it, washing out a literal physical injury and putting a band-aid on it? Is it asking for help because you're struggling in some ways, or identifying resources that could help you? Uh, If you're if it's your career that it needs first aid and you've done some triage and said, I need a new job, or I need to have a conversation with my supervisor, first you do the assess and triage, and then it's okay, what's the first aid? What's the thing that I think is going to help me? And it might be something I'm doing, it might be asking for help, it might be seeking a solution from others. The thriving when it comes to nurturing your health is remembering that there is so much more to being healthy than just not being sick. And we here in the West, we tend to think of health as just not having any symptoms. And of course, more and more folks are embracing this concept of wellness and well-being. That's the idea that's not only is it holistic in nature, it's not just jogging and eating carrot sticks, it's physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's our jobs, it's our finances, it's our hobbies, it's our relationships, it's all these different areas of our life. And there's more to positive states of well-being than just not having symptoms of illness, or not being in trouble, or not having an issue with something. And so, again, wherever you're at, it might not be time to even think about well-being. If you're really injured or really sick, we need to assess and triage and then apply some first aid. This hasn't fixed everything that in terms of challenges and changes since we've started talking about and distributing these stickers, but they've gone a long way in helping us access our curious minds and open our hearts a little bit more. And finding our calm spirit that I really do believe resides within us, even when things are really chaotic, and practicing can make a difference in terms of accessing our calm spirits. And then finally, nurturing your health. It's a lifelong, ongoing process, meeting ourselves and others where we're at, and taking the baby steps that we need make all the difference. I hope you found this helpful. If you'd be interested in having me mail you We Got This sticker, I'd be happy to do that. Just look for a link wherever you watch this video, and I'll have a link to a Google Doc that'll give you a couple of options. Thanks for watching this, and peace.